Okay, so we are live now. May I get a call to order? Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the March 10th, 2025 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:46 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. And I would like to apologize to those who are waiting. Oh, there's no waiting anymore. Okay. Sorry, we're not live anymore, so well, please join me while we stand for the singing of O Canada. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are no amendments to the agenda this evening.
Okay, and just in case, nothing for the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything at this time?
There was one minor typo that needed to be correct. Oh, that's not the agenda, that's the minutes. My bad, jumping ahead.
Okay, so we'll move to accept them as presented. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as circulated. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of the minutes. Are there any errors or omissions noted?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there were some minor amendments made to the minutes as presented in your agenda package. There was some numbering in the agenda items that needed to be corrected. So that has been corrected on our official record.
Thank you. So then moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the February 2024, February 24th, 2025 regular council meeting be adopted as amended. All those in favor? Carried. So then we move right into action requests. 8A, Heritage Property Request, Restoration of Museum Outbuilding. This one will be presented by Ms. Campo. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-24 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry authorize the Glengarry Nor'Westers and Loyalist Museum Board to proceed with obtaining proposals for the restoration of the museum outbuilding located on the property legally described as Plan 19, Lots 19 to 20, also known as 19651 John Street, and furthermore, that the project be deferred to the Township's Heritage Advisory Committee for review and comment once a proposal has been submitted to the Township Clerk. Ms. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Administration has received a request from the Glengarry Nor'Westers and Loyalist Museum Board, and they are looking to complete a project to refurbish the outbuilding that's located on the museum property. Now, because that property has been designated by bylaw as having historical significance, there's a process through the Ontario Heritage Act when alterations are requested or proposed for that property. In this case, the township is the owner of the property and the building. However, the project that's being proposed by the museum board is one that they are proposing to fund. And so if council is in principle in agreement to entertain or receive a proposal, the next step in the process would be for the museum board to submit what their proposed work would be. And just to expedite the process a little bit, included in the recommendation this evening is to also bring, once that proposal is received, to defer it to the Heritage Committee for comment, because that is the next step in the process through the Heritage Act. So instead of waiting for that proposal to come in and then coming back to council to get it deferred to the Heritage Committee, we're seeking approval for both of those steps tonight. So what that means is, once a proposal is received and deferred to the Heritage Committee, they will review it in consultation with staff such as our Manager of Parks, Recreation and Culture, as well as our Chief Building Official. And with their comments and review of staff, we will then come back with a report to council to provide an overview of that project and a recommendation from administration. So nothing would proceed without council receiving another report with the proposal and receiving your authorization to proceed. So what this report tonight does is it gives the board authorization to proceed with putting a proposal together and then sending that to the Heritage Committee for review.
Are there any questions or comments about this particular staff report? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read, carried. Moving to 8B, award RFP 2025-01 Smithfield Play Structure and Pathway. Ms. Harbers, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2025-25 be received and that RFP 2025-01 for Smithfield Play Structure and Pathway be awarded to playground planners as per their submission of $99,798.06 plus HST, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all applicable documents. Ms. Harbers.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This project is for the RFP for Smithfield Park for the play structure and pathway. This is through the Enabling Accessibility Fund that we received, and the deadline for the project in the funding timeline is January 2026. So we're moving forward with this project to have it completed this summer. Something not noted in this report is regarding the timelines. Obviously, in the report, it mentions that it will be completed by November 1st. However, it is our intention to have it completed prior to that, but the RFP did stipulate that as a deadline, just to ensure that it's completed in time for the funding deadline. So November 1st would be the latest that it would be completed. However, we are hoping to have it done before then. The lead times with playground planners, who we are recommending to have it awarded to, is about 4 to 5 weeks at this time. So it's possible that we will have it done in time for the Canada Day events. However, if it will not be done in time, it's possible that we can delay until right after to ensure that the park is not under construction for Canada Day events. So as mentioned in the report, we are recommending to award the project to playground planners, and you'll see attached the play structure design that is included with that. Thank you.
No, thank you, and I think that question came from Councillor Jaworski. That's thoughtful for the Canada Day, because I didn't think of that when I was reading it through. I do love a swing set, such a classic thing amongst the playgrounds. So I love seeing those. Any other comments from around the table? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read, carried. Next up is 8C, Award RFT 2025-03 Glen Walter Park Pathway Phase 1, and it will be presented by Ms. Harbers, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be resolved that staff report 2025-26 be received and that RFT 2025-03 for the Glen Walter Park Pathway Phase 1 be awarded to Malian Excavation Limited as per their submission of $36,356 plus HST, and furthermore that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all applicable documents. Ms. Harbers?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. As mentioned, this is for the pathway at Glen Walter Park. As you'll see in the attachment, it is just for Phase 1 as outlined in the drawing, to connect from the Glenwalter pathway to the existing Glenwalter pathway to the play structure. You may recall that it was part of the capital projects through the approved budget for this year. And part of the funding for this project is also from leftover funds when the community had fundraised for the play structure. And that information has been communicated with the representative from the Glenwalter Recreation Committee that had spearheaded that fundraising. So we did put out the RFT for this project, and we are recommending that it be awarded to Malian Excavation. So unless there's any questions, that's what we're recommending tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions from around the table on this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Thank you. Is there- I did, on that last one, I think I read Councillor Bougie just kind of going through it. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Lang. Can I just change that to, move it to Councillor Jaworski if you're fine with that? That's okay. I may have grabbed the wrong set of motions, but if not, I'll just make corrections as we go through. And then sorry that I read that wrong. Okay, now 8D, Award RFP 2025-04, Glenwalter Water Tower Contract Administration, presented by Ms. McDonald. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2025-27 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award RFP 2025-04 for the contract administration for the Glenwalter Water Tower construction to EVB Engineering in accordance with their submission dated February 28th, 2025, and furthermore that the General Manager of Infrastructure Services be authorized to sign all relevant documents. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is, as the resolution describes, I just wanted to let council know that contracted administration means administering the contract, so it is the people who will be very knowledgeable in our massive specs. They'll make sure that everything that is constructed as per the spec, and they'll provide on-site supervision to make sure not just that what our contractor is saying that they're doing meets the spec, but that we have visual confirmation. Council should also be aware that this is specifically for the construction. We will also have to retain an inspector for welding and coating. That's a specialized service that would be kind of packaged separately, so we're working at obtaining quotes for that. So when we look at the budget for contract administration, this is one piece, but also we'll need to have this other specialist come on board. So there is another report likely incoming. And this one, we received 2 submissions. They were both excellent technically. We'd arranged our RFP to weight heavily on fees and project team because we wanted a good price, and then folks who had recent experience with some bonus to Eastern Ontario, recommending award to EVB Engineering for their submission, with a note that while there is a price assigned, that it is time and materials, so the price may not be the end all to be all, which is why the resolution notes, as per their submission dated February 28th, 2025, if the contract is completed faster, then we'll see a lower price come in because we'll need less contract administration time and construction supervision. So it's just to make sure that council is aware that that's how these types of contracts are structured, and that's our expectation from any firm is that we've likely overestimated the hours. So we're hoping that it'll come in less because Landmark has indicated that they've already started construction, which was beyond our wildest hopes, and they should be done within a year. So like we had estimated about 18 months, but 12 months means better bangs for our value. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for bringing this forward. And my question is just from a comment that you just made there about how construction supervision, contract supervision and administration relates to the length of the how long it takes. For what Landmark is doing, is there something in that contract where there's like a penalty if they go beyond the 1.5 years that you estimated? or no?
Excellent question, Councillor Jaworski. So I believe there is, because our funding that we've received expires at the end of 2026, so our contract is set up to make sure that our substantial completion date is much before that December 31st, 2026 date.
Are there any further questions or comments from around the council table? Don't see anything from Councilor McDonnell. Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving to 8E, declare surplus land, Summerstown, presented by Ms. Haley. Moved by Councilor McDonnell, seconded by Councilor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2025-28 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry declares approximately 1 acre of land located on part of Block 23, Registered Plan 14M13 on James Crescent, Summerstown Estates subdivision as surplus to the needs of the Township of South Glengarry. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the parcel of property that we're talking about is located in Summerstown Estates subdivision. The land is currently part of a parcel of property that was dedicated for parkland, but is no longer needed for parkland purposes. Council may recall in May of 2024, Council directed administration to dedicate 2.5 acres for parkland to serve the Summerstown Estates residents. So that means that there's approximately 1 acre of land that's remaining. Administration is recommending that you deem this land to be surplus. And if council is willing to do so, then we would proceed in gathering additional information and following bylaw 2021 being sale and purchase of property bylaw. So if council deems it surplus this evening, the next steps that I would do then would be to obtain a survey to define the boundaries of that parcel of property, ensuring that it is 1 acre in area and meets our zoning bylaw requirements. And then we would also have a grading and drainage plan completed for that lot to ensure that it is compatible with the abutting properties and works with the existing and approved grading and drainage plan in the plan of subdivision, because if this were to become a building lot someday, then there would be a plan in place for a future developer to follow. So this evening is administration's just looking for you to let us know if this is to be deemed surplus or not, and then we'll move forward with the next steps. And we would have to come back to council in the future with subsequent staff reports to continue to proceed. So this isn't the last time you will hear about this if you choose to approve this report this evening.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks for the report. I definitely be in favor of it. Do we have, I guess we have to do a survey because we're splitting this property and make sure it's this grading and drainage. Is that normal that we would do that, or the person who was going to build a house on it, whoever buys this lot, if we decide to sell it? I don't know what that's going to cost, but if let's say the lot is worth $100,000, I don't want to spend $50,000 getting ready to sell it.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The survey is absolutely necessary in order to establish a legal description for that parcel to be registered and to become a conveyable parcel. To answer your second question, yes, in my opinion, it should be our responsibility to create that grading and drainage plan. Every other lot in that subdivision has a plan, so if a buyer came in, they would know what they have to follow, they would know where their building envelope is. And so if we were to sell it, it could be an issue for us if we had an uncooperative buyer that doesn't want to demonstrate that, and it could cause problems at building permit stage. In my opinion, that grading and drainage plan can be done for a few $1,000s because they're not having to reinvent the wheel when they have an established grading and drainage plan for all abutting parcels of property, road grades, etc. So I could be slightly off. I mean, things can be expensive today, but it's certainly not going to be, thousands of dollars that you indicated. But if there is any concerns, there's always the opportunity for me to come back to council with the costs of establishing that. But I did discuss this with our CAO, and he was in agreement with also having that grading and drainage plan completed.
All right. Councilor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. It's probably more question more for Ms. Harbers, but in terms of like next steps for the park, does anything rely on this specific, this process, or can things move along sort of as it's already been approved?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we had already started doing some excavation work on the property, and I would have to discuss further with GM Haley, but I don't believe having this done would delay us working on the parkland. But again, we could discuss that further. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor with the motion as read? Carried. So now we'll move into bylaws. 9A, zoning bylaw amendment, 2867173 Ontario Inc., presented by Ms. Haley, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2025-29 be received, and the bylaw 2025-12 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone the property legally described as part of lots 16 and 17, concession 2 Indian lands, being parts 3 to 6 on R Plan 14R 1656 in the geographic township of Charlottenburg, now in the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, from highway commercial CH and floodplain holding FPH to highway commercial exception 12 CH12 and floodplain FP. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of March 2025. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no public comments were received on this application that resulted in the need to deny the requested zoning amendment. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you explained the legal description for the property, this property is located on the north side of Tyo Town Road, approximately 400 meters east of Boundary Road. The property is currently zoned floodplain holding and highway commercial, and a majority of it is floodplain holding. The applicant or the property owner worked with the Raisin Region Conservation Authority and obtained a regulation permit for permission to fill a portion of the property and cut a portion of the property that would create a much larger building envelope and reduce the hazard area being the floodplain area. The entire property is approximately 19.13 acres in area. And now with the work that's been completed to date, if the zoning amendment is approved, it certainly becomes a much more feasible developable lot. The purpose of the application, as you mentioned, is a site-specific amendment to rezone it to Highway Commercial Exception 12. The reason for the Exception 12 is to bring in additional uses that fall in other zones on our in our zoning bylaw that would make a unique zone to this site. And those other uses that the applicant requested is a day nursery, equipment rental facility, fitness center, professional or business office, retail store, agricultural industry, building contractor shop, mini warehouse and public storage, industrial use, and a restaurant. And if this is approved, all other applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw would apply, such as parking, setbacks, screenings, what have you. You'll see in the staff report that we've completed a planning rationale, and we've described the planning policy framework that this was subject to and provided to you the applicable sections of the PPS, the official plan, and the zoning bylaw, so I won't review those in detail. I'm going to jump to the public consultation stage. So we had originally scheduled a public meeting for January 27th, but due to horrific weather that evening, unfortunately we had to cancel it. So the public meeting was rescheduled for February 24th. We received no members of the public at that public meeting, as you may recall, nor have we received any written submissions. We circulated this application to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, and they have no objections to the proposed zoning amendment. And of course, they worked with the applicant for that regulation permit for the work to be completed in advance of this application. If you look on the staff report, you'll see an image that's red and green that really highlights the developable area of that subject property. Council may recall that we are required to process and make decisions with applications within 90 days. Well, today is day 89. So I pride ourselves usually for making decisions well within our time frame, but even with a cancellation, we're still able to make it, and we certainly had support from the applicant as well, so it wasn't a concern. So administration is recommending to council this evening to approve this zoning bylaw amendment as it is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to the official plan.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from around the table? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving to acceptance of road widening, 19246 Cable Road, who will be presented by Ms. Campo, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be resolved that Staff Report 2025-30 be received and that Bylaw 2025-13 being a bylaw to accept certain lands as road allowance with the Township of South Glengarry and to dedicate the same to the public use as public highway be read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of March 2025. Ms. Campo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This item is essentially a housekeeping item that popped up as the result of a real estate transaction. So subject to any questions from council, this is just a standard road widening.
Any questions or comments from around the table? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Moving into information or key information reports. 10A, 2025 Business and Community Awards Gala. I guess this was trying to find a date. Where was it? Excuse me. Did Saturday, September 27th. Did that date seem to work for everybody? Head shake, yes. I'm not seeing any no's just offhand. And then furthermore, discussion on selecting two members of council. I don't remember who was on it last time. I feel that, but can we propose them again? Is it? Yes. All right. Well, it's always fun to pick on the person who's not here. Does anybody have an interest amongst the table to nominate them or somebody? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Yeah, Trevor and Stephanie did it last time, and I should say Councillor Jaworski and Councillor Bougie, and they did an excellent job. I would encourage them to do it again.
Okay, well, it's much like leaving the soccer field early. Oh, Councillor McDonnell, are you agreeing, or maybe you have something to add?
I second the deputy mayor's suggestion.
All right, well then, Councillor Jaworski, are you willing to accept the opportunity again? That's a yes from Councillor Jaworski and Councillor Bougie. Much like when you leave the soccer field early, you always get obligated with things. So I assume he would say yes. He didn't say no, but we'll follow up. And in the event that he says no, then we can try and find a second. But thank you very much, Councillor Jaworski, and I'm assuming Councillor Bougie for that. And the date will then be chosen as September 27th. Did anybody find any flaw with that particular date? Deputy Mayor said good. Councillors, they're here. Councillor Jaworski seems okay at present. Councillor McDonnell seemed pretty good to you now. Okay, yes. Moving on to 10B, Diversion Initiative, Clear Bags. Ms. McDonald, I think you might want to speak to this one, but it is about bringing in the Clear Bag program. So please go ahead.
Thank you. And yes, I have a few things to say. One, if council is not interested in us pursuing this program, then tonight is your night to tell us as administration to please halt and stop, and we'll put it aside and not move forward. However, administratively, we do believe that now is a worthwhile time to pursue such a program. With recycling having transitioned to producer responsibility, the management and administration of that curbside program is entirely with circular materials. And right now, they are maintaining the level of service that the Council of South Glengarry had set, so weekly pickup. However, moving forward, they can do whatever they would like. It could remain every week forever. They could go every second week. They could do, we really don't know. So in order to, and I've been using the words future-proof, but future-proof South Glengarry against whatever may be coming, and to keep that recycling out of our landfill, the Clear Bag program is a cost-effective, relatively easy initiative that we could implement to protect our landfills and future-proof is the best word. It is appropriate for rural settings. We have the City of Cornwall who's embarked on it right now. There's a lot of neat information in this report, but really the impetus is the transition to producer responsibility. And in the past few weeks, I've had a few alarming phone calls with residents who are not satisfied with the recycling service, and they say, well, I'm just not putting my recycling out, to which I say, so it's going into your garbage and our landfill, and that phone call goes silent, which means yes. So it's not a service recycling that we're providing, but we don't want that material in our landfill, both from South Glengarry's perspective, the environmental perspective, and we're paying the producers now to recycle things through the fees that we pay when we purchase products. So we want them to be recycling those things. So if we at South Glengarry can implement a program like this, then it's putting the impetus and the responsibility where it should be. A clear bag program is really just you put your garbage out, it's in a clear bag, and how the program exactly works, we can work through if council would like to proceed. But in other municipalities, if there's more than 10% of non-eligible waste in the bag, it gets left behind, keeps it out of our landfill, and the resident has an opportunity to resort and put it out with the appropriate waste stream. So there's a bunch of information, like I said in my report. We're suggesting that if council would like to proceed, that we do a community survey in April, bring back the results in May, and then have a soft launch in January of 2026, which aligns, which aligns with the full transition, like to producer responsibility, where they are completely in control of their program, and a full launch in April, just looking at how the City of Cornwall has rolled it out and how it provides residents who haven't been brought along on the journey between that January and April to get rid of their existing opaque bags, to kind of learn about the program, feeling comfortable with it, and all of that kind of good stuff. So I'm really excited to hear what council might have to say. And I personally am a huge fan of this type of program, because I really do think, even though it's a bit uncomfortable at first, that people can adapt. And I was talking with someone today who I may be looking at, who said that having a clear bag program makes them personally consider what they're putting out into their garbage. So it's not just that we can reject it, but it helps the residents think, do I really want to put this in the garbage, or should it go somewhere else? So there's also that kind of neat component to the program. So thank you.
No, thank you. And that personal responsibility is an interesting one. I think in Holland they have some electricity meters outside the house and some inside the house, and it's quantifiable that the ones that are inside the house actually use less. And it's just sometimes that reminder. At the same time, there's that privacy issue too. So with as I see here, and Kelly or Ms. Campo has it up, that May 2025, after we hear the results, should we take that first step, we can still stop it if we don't like what we hear. But I guess from around council, are there any questions or comments or concerns about taking that first step? Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the sentiment of the program. I have absolutely no interest in pursuing it. That's the end of my sentiment for this evening.
Very clearly said. Anybody else from around the table perhaps agree or disagree, or maybe there's no further comments, so we can take it to a vote? Councillor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. I think this is one of those projects that, definitely it is happening in other parts of the province. It's happening with our neighbor, and certainly it's one of these things that it's not a popular thing by any stretch of the imagination. We had a discussion about this at the Environment Committee, and one thing that really does come up is, that issue of privacy and people's concerns about, about the privacy of, and there's provisions, and it can be done with provisions to protect, privacy through a small opaque bag, or also when one puts out the bags, to have them in a container versus leaving them, as most people do, I guess, today, just a black bag on the garbage, at the roadside. But again, it's also one of these things that is very simple to do, and the data seems to indicate that it does have very good results in terms of increasing diversion. So I think it's something that we should, I mean, I'm not, I even myself, when I think about it, the idea of putting out my garbage like this, there is definitely just a natural kind of ick factor to it, I guess, for lack of a better word. But it is, in the end, a simple thing to do. And it does seem, at least in terms of Cornwall, that after the initial pushback, that it seems to have quieted down quite a bit. So I think it's something that we should at least, I don't think we should dismiss it out of hand, because again, I think it's something very simple that could, end up saving us quite a bit of money down the line. But certainly I understand it is controversial, so.
All right, thank you. I saw Councillor McDonnell's hand up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just based on everything else that we've seen come out of the city of Cornwall, I wouldn't use them as a benchmark for something we think might be an interesting idea. Just my 2 cents too.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. I'm not 100% sure this is the time, but I would like to do the public consultation part. And if we decide at that point that it's not worth doing, I'd like to know, where they stand. And I was at a meeting the other day in our area, a local hall, and at the end of the meeting, they had plastic tablecloths out, and I watched them roll up the plastic tablecloths with all the water bottles and everything that were sitting on the table into the plastic and throw the whole thing in the garbage. And I thought we'd kind of got past that, but I'm thinking that maybe with the producer responsibility and some of these public buildings are not able to put their recycling out at the curb, they've given up on it. And I feel we've gone backwards a little bit. I hate the idea that we're filling up our dumps with recycling that's supposed to be recycled, and we're actually, we're in a roundabout way paying somebody to recycle it, and that's not always happening. So I'm kind of torn whether I'm ready to do it or not, but I like the idea of finding out what the public, I don't know what that would cost us to have a public meeting and, send out the mailers, but just to find out where the public is on this and, if the majority of them are thinking along these lines.
Okay, so just to be sure, a resolution to do it would still be forthcoming, so we can say no, but are you interested? I'm not trying to negotiate across the hall here, Councillor McInnell, just to be sure, but given that, I suppose, would you be okay taking that first step to get the information, and then make a decision later? Or do we, I guess we're looking to, do we kill it? No, not kill it, that's a solid, the poor term, but like, do we end discussion tonight, or do we get that information later? Because Councillor McDonnell is clearly on the not interested. So are you interested in taking that first step, and then the cost would it be reasonable and manageable within the budget that we have? I think was the kind of a question Deputy Mayor Lang had.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just for some clarification, I originally proposed just an online survey through April, but Deputy Mayor Lang said he mentioned maybe an open house. Whatever type of consultation council would like us to make in the initial outreach, I'm happy to make that happen. It wouldn't be a huge financial burden on the township because it would be at one of our facilities and it's just our staff time. When I was speaking with the City of Cornwall, they said that there's no other diversional program that is as effective at increasing diversion without increasing costs, and that really the entire cost in them rolling out their program was entirely on the communication side, and in the first 3 weeks, just their staff time answering phone calls. And after that, it died down. So I know the City of Cornwall may not be everyone's preferred person to follow, but I've talked to other public works directors across Ontario and who've had clear bag programs for quite some time, and it's just the way of life there, and it's just how it is. So I think once you get over the initial shock, it's not so, keeping it rolling isn't so bad. So I guess my question back is, it's not financially cumbersome, it's kind of already in our budget, and any type of consultation that you'd like us to undertake in the April, early May, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
This type of communication, because it is so broad in our municipality, I might suggest, and maybe I'm stealing from Deputy Mayor Lang here, is maybe move that mailer ahead, because I think of elections, and it costs you, say, $500 to buy your postcards and another, say, 1,500 to send them out to the community, and then have surveys available in paper for those who wish to at our locations. And that way we get that information. We've sent it out to everybody in advance, because an online survey we'd likely put on Facebook and the website, and that's not going to hit everybody, because we might get a lot of quiet, like people being upset that they weren't communicated. I don't know if that's an over-communication, but I think if we're going to do the public outreach, kind of tie them together and then come back in April, if that's where we wish to go. But I might be speaking on behalf of council without the full guidance. So would that satisfy your question? You said public outreach. So Deputy Mayor Lang?
And the only reason I said direct mailers, because it's right on there at point number C. I'm in favor of exploring it. I'm not promising I'm going to vote in favor of it when we find out a little more, but I'm in favor of talking it over. And if nothing else, it keeps things front and center. It keeps us and our residents thinking about the fact that we have to seriously consider ways of stretching the life of our landfills.
So if I may just, I do agree with you that we should get some opinion first. I was understanding, and maybe I misunderstood, that the community survey might be good to do the outreach beforehand, a little further outreach more than just a link to somewhere. Councillor Jaworski?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd like to think that folks recognize that I always want to have consultation, and I like sharing, and I don't often think that you can do too much of it. And I mean, again, I'm not saying, we have to do this, but I think we have to always try and inform our citizens on issues. And certainly if this is, this is an important one. And I think if we're going to do something broad, like what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, about doing something a bit more, I think then we should put a little bit more effort, not more effort, but communicate broadly on the topic of waste management. So as the mayor, deputy mayor just mentioned about, extending our landfills, that ensure that there's information about that, so that wider context of, the landfills we have, how long we've had them, how much it costs us to operate them, so that people have a bit of context to, why we're even talking about these things, as opposed to, sort of something that's thin on the details.
Yeah, and that way those who want to be educated can be educated. And if it's a small thing, maybe get more here, but give them the start. We'll leave that administration lead to take care of. So then I am seeing an interest from enough around the table to proceed with getting community input and come back to council. Draft solid waste management plan bylaw, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a draft of a solid waste management bylaw. It's not the first or second reading. It's really just to get council's feelings on what's in it, and if we have appropriately captured the level of service that council would like to provide, if there's more information that we want before bringing it for a first and second reading. We don't have such a bylaw at current time, so and admittedly, this is something that our summer student and infrastructure coordinator had started towards in 2023, and they came to the Environment Committee, and then we kind of lost steam, so we're back at it here. In my staff report, in kind of the burnt orange color, I highlighted for council the areas where it'd be a change from our current practices. So this is the bylaw where we codify, the 2-bag limit, the opaque versus clear bags, what is accepted at the landfill, what isn't accepted at landfill, curbside accepted versus not accepted when the landfill is open. Every time somebody says, well, where does it say that in relation to solid waste management, we would just pull up this bylaw and it says it here. So it really is setting the level of service, and it reflects, again, that regional waste management benchmark for the most part, because that's something that we've agreed that everyone can strive towards, even if municipality doesn't want to quite meet everything in it. So all the municipalities are kind of working together towards a sort of common end goal, and this is one of the steps that South Glengarry can take. So the bigger changes that I'll just highlight are at the landfill sites. Currently, we accept IC&I. One of our landfills, so IC&I being the industrial, commercial, and institutional waste. One of our ECAs, the environmental compliance approval issued by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and they may have changed their name, but I'm not sure. So the MECP One of our landfills is not able to take this material, but we do. So some of this is aligning our own practices with our ECAs. So as a township, like our ECAs define how our landfills work. So council may have some opinions that we may administratively have to come back and say, unfortunately, our ECA does not allow that, or it does. And that's, we can apply for an EC amendment if it's council's wish, but that takes a huge amount of time. So going back to the change, it's restricting a landfill for residential use, not IC&I. IC&I can go to the Little Flesh landfill, now called GFL up in Moose Creek. That's an appropriate spot for that type of waste to go. They have strong controls. They have a waste station. Like they are prepared to accept that type of waste, and it will help push all of the waste that we believe we may be receiving from outside of South Glengarry out of our landfills and preserve that space for our residents. I do have noted under Schedule C approved containers, clear bags, but we'll align that with whatever council's decision is on the other program, so that can absolutely change. Under Schedule E, landfill location and hours of operation, I just kind of put out there a question for 2026. Is council happy with our Thursdays and Saturday service, or is that something that you'd like to expand on? No strong opinion administratively, just if we're going to codify it, if there's any thought as to expanding that, this would be the time to do it. And under Schedule F, accepted and prohibited waste for disposal at the landfill sites, I've highlighted construction, demolition, or renovation materials. And there was a follow-up question from Councillor Jaworski about like smaller renovations. So if you're doing your own bathroom or you're doing your own kitchen and you're not a big shop, but you're really doing it yourself, where could you bring your waste? Administratively, we went for the most restrictive in our draft bylaw, but again, this is council's level of service. So if you feel that you'd like to allow that, that's your choice. But I did call all of our surrounding municipalities this morning, and South Stormont does accept building waste, residential, so small. North Glengarry does not allow residential construction at the landfill and hasn't for a very long time. South Dundas does accept residential construction debris, but they have a separate bin to receive it, and how they've got around, or how they've been enforcing it is you have to be able to pick it up and toss it into the bin, so you can't just bring a trailer back and dump it, and that seems to be working for making sure that it is like small residential construction, and you're not just getting someone saying, hey, this is my small residential construction. North Dundas also accepts small residential construction, and they say small loads, so similar to South Dundas. They just eyeball it, and they have dedicated people at landfill and more expanded hours to us, so they really know who is coming in and out, and they can keep an eye on, you know, if myself, I came every day and said, this is my house, like how many times can you really renovate your bathroom? The answer is one. Well, I guess one per bathroom per year would be like very reasonable. Sorry, it's a joke. In the city of Cornwall, yeah, they do accept residential construction right waste. And again, they have a scale, so it's a little different than us when we just have a price per like unit of receiving. And North Stormont, of course, has 2 closed landfills, so all the waste goes to GFL. So GFL is their option. So that was one of the questions I received. Councillor Jaworski had a question about also agricultural waste that I'm going to ask her to ask me again, because I think I didn't exactly answer it. And the third question was, should we specify the months for heavy pickup week? And my response is it sets the expectation that it'll be in the spring as part of a spring clean, and kind of protects, not kind of, but it protects the municipality against administration forgetting or not doing it, or like bouncing it around. So everyone, it's clear. So the expectation is it's in May, but no strong preferences as to whether or not that's codified in, or just we go with best practices. So.
All right, Councillor Jaworski, I think you were asked to ask a question.
Yes. Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Thank you, Ms. McDonald, for addressing my first question about small amounts of residential renovation material. When I was reading through, I was trying to think, like, how does this apply? How would this apply to me, like, as a private citizen? And I was thinking, well, I would, you know, for small things, I was like, I don't know how I would. And you don't want to encourage people to, like, you want to encourage people to do the right thing. And I have a feeling if we can't take small residential, then people won't do the right thing. So I think it's the right balance there, is to find a way to accept small residential construction waste. My question about agricultural is, I know that there's a number of items like agricultural that are dealt with in other ways. But again, I was just, I was looking around my barn and I was like, if I wanted to take that bag of baler twine that has accumulated over the winter, like, is that something that can go in the garbage, or is that now something that would have to be disposed in a different way? So again, sort of like small amounts of things that are not hazardous, are not recyclable, but yeah, how I wouldn't want to again have people be encouraged to try and deal with them in ways that we don't want to encourage.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for expanding on your question. I'm going to say I had trouble with my computer today, so I was doing everything on my phone, and responding to questions was challenging. I think small items like that would still be acceptable in this framework. It looks like we've really only excluded from bringing to the landfill, like hay, straw, farm manure, and excrement, and that those other items would likely be, they're small enough they'd be accepted. Not in like truckloads, but.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Lang.
I'm not in a rush. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Are we taking any construction material that shows up at the moment? Like if somebody shows up with a large dump trailer that, demolished an outbuilding or something, and like what are we taking at the moment? And I just want to know how big this change is going to be.
That's an excellent question, Deputy Mayor, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe we take pretty much everything. Like if a house burns down, we take it all. If someone knocks down a building, we take it all. So it would be a fairly large change to our residents who are knocking down buildings, I suppose.
Okay, thank you. I definitely think we have to take, and the landfill's there for our residents, and if they're have a project or whatever, and they, that's why we have it, so they can, we don't, if they're gonna take everything to La Flèche, I mean, we've kind of defeated the purpose, other than just picking up the garbage bags along the road. But for people that actually go to the landfill, I think it's very seldom that they actually take garbage bags, because we'll come and get them. So I think it's all these other things that they are actually going for. And how would we distinguish between, like, we're allowed 2 loads a year, and, I don't imagine those loads are garbage bags. They're likely, lumber, whatever is laying around that, so we'd almost be getting rid of those 2 loads, in my opinion.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the intent, and we can figure out how to, I'm going to tell you my intent, and you can tell me if I should try and word it, or if you're not excited about it as council, is whenever a contractor does demolition, they are now have their contractor bin and they just bring it to our landfill. So it's that we don't want to accept, because you've paid a contractor to do a service and they can really bring it anywhere. If the mayor does his bathroom, I think that's something we would like to continue to accept. It's just when money is already being exchanged, I don't know. It's really the contractor load. So if we're paying a contractor to bring it to us, we have no, it's challenging for us to know if it truly came from within South Glengarry, that contractor load, or if it's mixed from South Glengarry and here, if they do half and half. And we don't have scales, so we're not sure exactly what we're getting. So it's just kind of drawing that line that if you're a contractor, please go to JFL. And if you're a resident, it sounds like council's would like to continue to accept that type of material.
Okay, I'm okay with, I'm not sure how we make that happen, but I have been quite concerned that there are loads coming from other municipalities for sure, and I think we need to find a way to keep these landfills going without filling them up, just because we don't have a scale and it ends up being cheaper to bring it to here because we're just charging by the load, and they can have the whole bottom of the load as asphalt shingles, and that, there's 5 tons of shingles in there, Like, I think this sort of thing is happening, and we need to find a way to kind of slow it down.
I did see Councillor McDonnell's hand up.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I had written down when I was reviewing this on my own exactly that same thought as the general manager had. How do you, I guess, specify or try to restrict it so that it's not contractors bringing it in? I would start with, because I think our biggest problem, because I see it on the 18 every week, on Thursday and Saturday, you can see the roll-off bin trailers coming in on the back of a pickup truck. It's obviously a commercial business. It's all written in French and it's coming down the 18 at Bridge End. So I'd assume it's coming out of Quebec. So you put an end to roll-off bins. All you offer is the largest vehicle coming in with construction waste being a dump trailer, tandem axle or triaxle or whatever you want to do, or set a length limit to the trailer. Say it's a 12-foot long trailer. No dump trucks of waste, no roll-off bins where they could be left at another location. And I don't know if you want to do the driver's license of the person dropping the material. Has to be a South Glengarry resident, or be able to provide an open permit on a South Glengarry property, and that property is built with a cap of say 5 loads or something along those lines. Anything above that, you should be paying for a bin. You have a contractor obviously doing the work, or you're doing a significant amount of work that you should have a bin from Tomlinson or Menard or whoever. That's my 2 cents. I don't know what the rest of council thinks.
Well, it seems it aligns quite well with what council has been suggesting so far, is to allow for those residential renovations, so that would need some change in the wording. So it seems we're leaning the way that Councillor McDonnell and the others spoke to allow, and I do like some of the ideas, so as this is kind of in advance of a first and second reading, do take those into consideration, because I think there's some good stuff there. So that kind of is on page 53, gets rid of that question. Clear bags will be a future thing upon hearing back from the public. And then question for 2026, continue level of service or to expand to 5-day service. Any thoughts from around the table there? Do we need to, and before doing that, would the extension to a 5-day service, would it cost us more? Okay. And would it be a new body or just, okay, so it would be, there'd be an employee involved in that. So whatever that is, if council has any ideas just off the hand, and we can always check it on the first or second reading. But Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Again, like in terms of trying to set things up to help folks have behavior that, doesn't cause trouble for other residents. And what I mean is, someone showing up at the landfill and it's closed, and so they decide, rather than coming back another day, they decide to dump it in the ditch or something like that. So based on that, I think it's always good if we can try and extend the availability, but I mean, as it's already been pointed out, it's going to cost us more. But so I wondered if you could put that in, and I know you don't have it's not an exact science to tell us what you think the benefit would be, but if you could speak a little bit to how you think it might help us extend the life of the landfills or provide a better service to residents, like in terms of how often you get the sense of how often people are trying to go when we're not open, that sort of thing. If you could try to put more context, I'd appreciate it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, big question. I know that we're seasonally quite busy at the landfill, so I think it would even it out over the week instead of having days where we're just run off our feet. In other parts of the year, it would have no benefit. So like January, no benefit at all. But May through maybe November, we see like we're always peaking, and sometimes we don't have time to even push the waste. Our attendant is busy just getting it into a good spot. And in terms of our costs, like it would be a whole, right now our landfill attendant also doubles as a snowplow driver. So if we had more service, it's really impactful to our winter operations, because right now, if it snows and the landfill is open and it's not inclement enough to close the landfill, then we're down a plow driver for a certain period of time, and we kind of double up on routes and make it work. It's not a great answer. We can kind of keep an eye on it over the next couple months while we work towards first, second readings and go through the clear bag thing and see I can get more quantifiable numbers and information for you.
And just maybe a supplemental on that. So to your point about you're mentioning about there's like a seasonal aspect to it, like is there a seasonal answer then to like providing, maybe seasonally having more access to, just another idea.
Okay, so you come back with, that's a decent suggestion. Like, if we don't need somebody there if we're not using them, but if there might be seasonality to it. Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think there's any appetite, or I don't personally see any appetite or reasoning for extending our hours of operation. We've had the conversation extensively here tonight that we want less garbage going into our landfill. You extend your hours, you just make it more convenient, so make it a special trip, make it Thursday, make it Saturday. I agree with Ms. McDonald that, this time of year, people be sitting around twiddling their thumbs at the landfill, and in the summertime, it may make things a little more easy. But if we can, if we can, maybe we allocate a few more funds to have somebody do a little more work in those high need times, etc. I don't personally think there's any reason to open it up for the public anymore. I think if you can't get there Thursday or Saturday in 1 week, you've got next week. Let's not encourage more business. So it's said, I guess, or as you would say.
Thank you. Any further thoughts, Deputy Mayor Lang? No. I suppose because there's 4 of us here today, it would be interesting to see if next time when the first and second reading comes for Councillor Pougy. I haven't heard a community need for the extra time either, so I'd probably lean that way. But as we're 4 and this is only an info report, we don't need to really decide that right now. But now you have the understanding of what kind of council's looking for. Do you have enough to come back at some point in the future with a first and second reading, or were there any questions or clarifications you required from us?
No, but through you, Mr. Mayor, and to all of council, if you're happen to be reading this draft bylaw late at night and have some comments, you can administratively flip them to me and we can incorporate them into the first and second reading if it seems to align with what I've heard tonight, and we can always put a little staff report saying where the changes came from. I mean, it is your level of service, so we're good to amend as requested and as many times as it takes to make it perfect for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So there were no items from consent agendas pulled. So moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. Boards and committee updates. Put your hand, I'm trying to do this so I don't have to read through them every time and make it look like some are on and off. Did we have a council meeting between now and then? No, we did not. RRCA certainly did, so no, we did we? Sorry, no, not RRC. Next week, sorry. I'm thinking of the library board, which I am part of. Do you mind if I update on the library board? I know it's not, I don't think it's listed here. Oh, falls under SDG. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it falls under SDG. So we did have our first, what do we say, book club. It was interesting. And then we had a fairly big discussion on 2S LGBTQ plus items and how that's becoming controversial. And there's a Take Back Canada initiative in Alberta that seems to be targeting libraries, so that's top of mind for us. The Fifth Estate highlighted that, and then otherwise we updated a technology and a Maker Lab plan, and the reciprocal borrowing with North Grenville has just recently started. Are there any other committees wishing to report? Okay. There was one issue I don't know if Mr. Fothrop mentioned for the Border Mayors Alliance. I was going to ask you to summarize the stuff we had taken, but if it's not being relayed. Okay, well, yeah, it was a very small item. So the Border Mayors Alliance, just quickly, is something that in response to the United States and tariffs to come or to not come, depending on the day. Is it something that council wishes me to participate in? At present, it is just kind of a draft idea. They're looking at potentially having some costs and meeting, and I just did not want to assume that we wanted to be part of it without kind of getting a yes. Like I'm impartial either way to the will of council, but I can also have that brought up with a little bit more for the next meeting, because right now, without what it's doing and how they intend to do it, it's unfair for me to ask you that. So I'll shelf that, but keep that top of mind. Jason Broad, or Mayor Broad, sorry, from South Dundas is quite involved, and he does keep us updated. I'll bring a report just to get the blessing at the next meeting. Oh, definitely, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, I think it's, I don't think this is something that costs us a lot of money, a little bit of our time. I think it is something definitely worthwhile to keep that communication open. As a warden, I'll just let you know that last week I met with Edward Lockwood, who is, they call him a chairperson, who's basically Franklin County in the States. So basically, as a warden, my counterpart for Franklin County, we met in Malone last week and had a little visit, and just to kind of keep the communication open, and they were quite agreeable and understanding, and realizing that, quite concerned actually that it's going to hurt them. The Malone Golf Course, about 40% of their business comes from this side of the border, and that sort of thing is happening all the time down there, and they're worried that it's going to come to an end, or quite a bit smaller number of people are going to go down. So, and they are, willing to make a motion and send it up the line that, so I think every little bit helps. So I think if you're interested in being involved with that, I would support it.
All right, then I'm seeing nods, and I will join that group then. Thank you for that moment, and also highlighting your moment with Franklin County, because I think that is valuable. We are, despite politics sometimes, we all wish the best for our near neighbors, and the United States and their citizenry has been a great neighbor, and will continue to be a great neighbor for a long time. Okay, title for the confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-14, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of March 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the Chair at 7:53 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. That's it.